Hello. Thank you for listening. This is the near death experience of Marie, and this experience occurred in July of 1992 and was documented in 2003. Open quote. I had this experience at about 4 or 5 a.m. I had a strange feeling the night before. I had a lot of energy and wanted to talk about profound things. I exhausted my friend and then my brother, and finally I went to bed. As it was during the summer, it is common for people to feel a sense of midsummer madness. So I lay in bed thinking a lot. I sat in a hunched position on the windowsill for a long time, about 2 hours. After the sun came up, I went to lie down on my bed, and my body was so stiff that I fell onto the bed from the windowsill. This is when I felt like I was having a heart attack. I couldn't call my parents. I could only gasp and grunt. Then I heard sounds coming from my own mouth, and at that moment, I was aware that my chest was heaving. And suddenly, without any warning, I was on the far side of the room, above the door. I was a bit shocked, and even more shocked when I looked over and saw that my body was still on the bed. I was very still, and I thought that I looked very, very small and troubled and insignificant and lonely lying there. With that, I was outside, flying through the sky. I looked down and saw the rising sunlight reflecting on the Irish Sea. I was way ahead of a number of seagulls. I headed extremely quickly towards Scotland. Briefly saw the west coast with the sunlight shining and the boats on the water, and then boom! I was in darkness. But I was light. Briefly, it seemed that I was alone. I was not afraid because almost instantly I felt that there was someone else with me. Then I felt like there was another, and another. It seemed like I could hear smiling. I could not really see anything other than lots of white lights that seemed sort of like stars. Then suddenly, lines of light connected them all. The nearest description that I can give is that it was like being right in the middle of a vast, huge molecule frame, such as the ones that chemists make to demonstrate the properties of chemicals. This one was massive, all caps. It was multidimensional, and I could understand everything, all caps. I was tremendously excited. I saw flashes of color and could hear what I can only describe as background music, but really, it wasn't music, and it wasn't even really sound as we know it. I felt like I existed in sound and in light. It's really hard to describe because my vocabulary just isn't big enough. It was very, very satisfying. Then I realized that whatever thought came to me, I could make that happen. Suddenly, I could see mathematical calculations in multi-dimensions describing how everything works in the universe: magnetism, density, light, color, energy, etc. It was just fabulous. I was really enjoying it. Then I thought that I would like to be able to take it back with me. And it was as if my mind tricked me, because instantly I realized that I had pledged to return to Earth. Immediately, I did not want to go. I wanted to stay. I felt more at peace than I had ever felt in my life. It was so beautiful and such a happy and peaceful experience that even now, as I type, about 11 years later, I am still brought to tears by the thought that I have to live in this body, abide by such a horrible set of restrictive rules, that life is so heavy here and dull and basic and boring. Then I felt like I was being spoken to, even though I could not hear voices. Let's say that I was communicating telepathically. I felt that I was surrounded by many beings who I knew well, yet none of them I really recognized from this life. I certainly didn't meet my deceased grandmother or anything like that. I was offered a request before I left. As I had had an abortion when I was 21, several years before, and incidentally, that is the experience that truly shook up my life and put me on a different course, I expressed my never ending guilt for having taken away the life of my unborn being. Instantly, I focused on what seemed like a star, a bright light, and I knew that that was the soul of that being. It was irrelevant whether it was a male or a female. I put forward my feeling of sorrow and guilt and was in turn washed over by a feeling of complete forgiveness, unlike any earthly forgiveness. It was made somehow very, very clear to me that it was not such an evil thing that I had done, and that there are reasons for everything. I asked again for forgiveness and even invited that being back again. The only near earthly sound that I heard was from that spirit, a sound of a very happy giggle. That sound stays with me as clearly now as if it happened 2 seconds ago. Then it was time for me to go. I felt that I was being surrounded by, let's say, my guardian angels. I felt myself moving further away from the spirit of my unborn. There was a rush, and during that rush it felt like I was going backwards or imploding. I did not want to come back, but had a very strong sense that I had to. Next thing, I was lying in my bed. I can't remember what happened then. I do remember that I woke at about 8:30 or 9 a.m. and went downstairs to have breakfast with my parents. I was practically euphoric and would have loved very much to tell them about my experience, but they would never have believed me. I have had a great interest in all things otherworldly since early childhood. I know that they think I'm bordering on antisocial because of my beliefs, and if I had told them that I had a near-death / super elaborate outer body experience, they would not have tolerated it. And rather than risk having my extremely precious and private experience dashed and criticized, I said nothing. This euphoria lasted nearly a week. I had masses of energy. That morning, I felt like I had traveled around the world and back again. Everything in the house seemed like it would if I had been away for a decade. For days afterwards, colors were much richer and deeper. Sadly, after about 10 days, I started to feel down. I wish that I could have had someone to share the experience with, but did not know anyone or any group who I could share with. I felt quite depressed about that, and I felt very lonely, very, very lonely. End quote. Wow. That was an interesting one, and really, really glad that she received her forgiveness. That would be pretty tough. There are some questions here, so let's see what we've got. Question: at the time of your experience, was there an associated life-threatening event? Answer: no. It felt like at the time like I was having a heart attack. My body felt tight and painful. I found it hard to breathe. Then I heard myself gasping and grunting, sounds coming from my mouth, my chest arched, and then I felt that I had left my body. There was no one there. The experience happened at home in my parents' house. Question: did you feel separated from your body? Answer: uncertain. I felt fully me, except I didn't have a heavy body. It felt just right. The nearest description would be after going for a very, very long hike when one's boots feel molded around one's feet, and then one takes one's feet out of the boots and the socks off, and the feet feel so light. This is how I felt when I left my body. Me minus some heavy layers. Question: at what time during the experience were you at your highest level of consciousness and alertness? Answer: extremely and profoundly heightened beyond superhuman. I felt that I understood perfectly the secrets of the universe. Question: did time seem to speed up or slow down? Answer: each time I focused on something, I absorbed it, and it felt like I spent enough time with it to be truly satisfied, but then it felt like everything was happening fleetingly. Sometimes when I remember back to the events, it feels like it went on for a long time, and sometimes it feels like the experience went very quickly. Whichever way, it all felt like it was over far, far too quickly. However, it is fairly easy to capture that feeling when we are very engrossed in something pleasurable, so it isn't very fantastic. Question: did your hearing differ in any way from normal? Answer: not noises, just sound, and it wasn't like the sound we hear in our ears. It didn't seem to be coming from anywhere. It was just there. It did not seem to be there because of vibration or wind or anything. I can't describe it. Question: did you encounter or become aware of any deceased or alive beings? Answer: yes. I was surrounded by beings, and I seem to know them all, even though I don't recognize any of them from life on Earth, other than the aborted/unborn spirit. I didn't see any figures or anything that relates to earthly beings. Question: did you see an unearthly light? Answer: yes. I saw lots of light, and it became colors, and it was dark light, and there were lots of lights like stars. None of it was blinding. It was bright white light, as easy to look at as light depicted on paper. Question: did you seem to enter some other unearthly world? Answer: just after I left my body, I felt like I was flying away from my parents' house over the north part of Dublin Bay, over the Irish Sea, and up along the coast, and all along the west coast of Scotland. It seemed like I could see it all in real time. I didn't have a sense that it was just like watching a video. It felt like I was really in the sky, flying over the sea. After that, everything was completely different from Earth. No earthly related visions. Question: did you suddenly seem to understand everything? Answer: absolutely. I felt like I understood the purpose of my existence, both here and there. Everything, all caps, made perfect sense. One of the lasting positive aspects of this experience is that no matter how insane everything seems to be in this world right now, I can remember that I actually knew why it was happening. There truly is a purpose to everything. We are here to learn and evolve, although we're doing a pretty awful job of it. Question: did scenes from your past come back to you? Answer: I felt that I was able to see mathematics. I could understand all physics, math, chemistry, everything. It was all gridded out in star points and joined by lines of light. I could pick out a pattern, and it showed itself to me from all aspects, and I could see perfectly clearly how everything works, all about energy and how everything fits, matches, grows, dies, everything. It was brilliant. It was sort of like being in outer space and then suddenly being able to see the constellations really clearly in that gestalt manner. The symbolic Leo and Libra, etc., mapped out in three-dimensional star-to-star designs. Everything had a meaning, and I could understand it perfectly. Question: did scenes from the future come to you? Answer: no. Other than the point of realization that I had to return to my body and my life on Earth, and that I had a chance to make an offering of my opinion/feelings before I left, that I was being taken away. Question: did you come to a border or point of no return? Answer: as I said before, I sort of tripped over myself. I was enjoying the mathematical information greatly and was hoping that I could retain as much of it as possible. And at that very moment, I knew that deep down, I knew that I was going to be coming back. Then I immediately, like a child, didn't want to leave. And after that, it was out of my hands, so to speak. Question. What was your religion prior to your experience? Answer, liberal. Describe myself at the time as a designer Catholic, meaning that I would subscribe to various aspects of Catholicism, but certainly not all aspects. Was brought up as an active Catholic, actively involved in the church, until I excommunicated myself on my 18th birthday. Have never wavered in my belief of God. What is your religion now? Answer, liberal. My opinions of the Catholic Church and all other religious organizations remain the same as it did then. I have since matured and understand better that religion is good for some people, but to me, it is mostly a club with a serious hierarchy snob factor. Question. Did you have a change in your values and beliefs because of your experience? Answer. Yes. I now believe very deeply that there is a purpose for my life here. We aren't just chickens lying on a shelf waiting to be eaten or to rot. There is a very definite purpose for our existence here. I always believed in God. Now I feel more comfortable about it. Any ideas I had about death, dying, or after death are now very, very firm in my mind. Absolutely no one can convince me otherwise. If anyone tries to tell me that I am wrong, crazy, or stupid, I think that they are very sad and cut off, and I walk away. So I have a sense that I know something that other people don't, and it has given me wisdom and patience. But I remain human and have feelings which get hurt. Question. Was the experience difficult to express in words? Answer, yes. The experience was so outside of the normal range of experiences that I still cannot find words to describe it, and I regard myself as rather articulate. I heard sounds that were not sounds, yet was not music, but it felt like music. Yet it did not come from anything solid such as voice or booming or wind. Too hard to describe. I don't have the vocabulary. Also, I experienced fabulously rich colors and color/hues that I have never seen in my normal life. The colors were lit up and changing. There were far more colors than we see here. My understanding of what was going on was extremely vast. I could understand, or felt that I could understand, everything. The most depressing aspect of returning was that I could not bring this understanding with me. Now I always feel that I am extremely limited, like an old computer. Question. Do you have any psychic, non-ordinary, or other special gifts after your experience that you did not have before the experience? Answer. Yes, very much so. This is another depressing aspect of having had this experience. At first, I would instinctively simply know, all caps, how certain things were going to happen, be that good or bad. I got a lot of social abuse because of this, because I started to open my mouth and predictions would practically pop out. Just about everyone was displeased with this. I'm not sure if it's because of my personality or the manner in which I started to do this, but I was received so badly, so consistently, that I stopped doing that, although I still do it with my mother. I also find that I still do it with my close friends. I have no way that I can fathom of knowing when I'm going to know, all caps, something, but when I do, I most certainly do. I started to have a number of prophetic dreams. They come fairly frequently. They have a special atmosphere or feeling, either so I nearly always know a prophetic dream while I'm dreaming it, or as soon as I wake up. Sometimes I have a prophetic dream, but they are mixed up, and it takes me a while to sort them out, as the order isn't always perfect. I started to keep dream diaries to prove to myself that I could do it. I had a number of them, but destroyed some because the information was not pleasant, and I was frightened. I have a special diary that I record special dreams in. Only last week, I was flicking through it and I came across a dream I had 6 years ago that described perfectly an event that happened to me 4.5 years later. Unfortunately, no matter how hard I try, I cannot alter the outcome of these dreams. If I dream it, it will happen. It will happen no matter how many blocks I put up. I have special dreams that come usually in a series of 3. When these come, I know it, so I immediately write everything down. These dreams always related to someone else's life other than mine. I always write these out in letter form and mail them to whomever they are relevant to. Unfortunately, I have not received good responses. I think I frighten people with the information or the details. I mail them so that there is a postal stamp to go with them, and then no one can say later that I made it up or anything like that. Unfortunately, the last series I had related to a very personal incident which I really had no way of predicting in my waking life. When eventually the events unfolded almost verbatim with my friend watching on, when I later asked him what he thought, he utterly denied everything and said that I was trying to make coincidences of nothing. Many of my friends are scientists, and each of them put down my dreams. My artistic, musical, more intuitive friends tell me that I am suffering from the effects of too much strong cheese before bed, or that I am hallucinating, or whatever. It is very sad that the people from these dreams will not accept what I write for them. Only one friend of mine is open and receptive to my prophetic dreams. Consequently, I started to dream of his deceased son. He very much loves to receive those letters. Since my experience, I dream very vividly of deceased persons. I very much believe that they come to visit me in my dream state. These dreams practically feel lucid. They have wonderful conversations with me. They are sort of like my guides. They show me jobs that I will receive, apartments that I will move to, cities that I will live in, etc. They have become quite like my guides. Sometimes they visit just for fun. They also show me things that seem to me banal, but later I hear from those who I wrote to that they were pointing out things as private messages to those people who eventually read my letters. As this information is profound and private, I understand that it takes a while for people who have no psychic strengths or beliefs to accept that they have actually received a message. My mother gets upset when I tell her that her mother passed on a message. For some reason, she prefers to hear this from professional psychics. She says that I shouldn't dabble, and I tell her that they came to me. But she says I'm encouraging it and that I should stop. This hurts my feelings. I very much feel that I have been endowed with a big responsibility, and it isn't a very pleasant one, although I do feel honored. Nevertheless, I also feel sad and lonely about it. Question: are there one or several parts of the experience that are especially meaningful or significant to you? Answer: best part is that I had such a fabulous experience, that I value my life much more, that I believe that we are very special, and I pass that message on to anyone who will listen. The downside is that my life was turned upside down after this experience, and I was sort of in the eye of it. My family had many problems coping with me. They will not listen to me talking about any special visitations or visions. I am sad about this. They have been through a lot because of it. They thought I was one person and then I turned into someone else. They get jealous when people come to me for advice, counsel, or just to talk. Older people come to me and ask me questions. That is very enjoyable because I am no longer afraid of death, or as they are. I work with the elderly under harsh circumstances. I have full opportunity to let them know that they have nothing to be afraid of, but that they must clean up some things before they go. I am very happy to know that one day I will exit Earth and it will be like taking off from work on a Friday evening. I don't miss my old beliefs, but I didn't enjoy the transfer. I am glad I am who I am, and I am extremely grateful to God that I am so gifted and talented. Question. Have you ever shared this experience with others? Answer. Yes, with very few people, less than 5. This is the first time I have expressed myself so fully. I have actively sought this site out so that I could tell all of this because now I feel ready. I met a patient who died during surgery, and when I was in the operating theater. To me, he left his body. The next day, he had a certain look on his face, and I would have liked very much to talk to him about it, but there were too many interruptions as he was really quite ill. If I had been caught discussing afterlife with him, I would have been in serious trouble. Question. At any time in your life, has anything ever reproduced any part of this experience? Answer, uncertain. I tried very, very hard to get back there. I meditate quite a lot now, and I've had some nice experiences, some visions, flashes of this, but nothing, all caps, that can compare to that experience. No alcohol or drug that I have ever smoked has ever brought me anywhere close, all caps, to that experience. Meditation is like looking at the photo of a beautiful mountain in a brochure. Having the experience is like being in, on, and around the mountain all at once. That's a good description. Question. Is there anything else that you would like to add about your experience? Answer. The only thing that bothers me is that it happened to me when I was alone, so that there was no one to verify what happened to my body during my experience. I did read Dr. Moody's books when I was young, but like the difference between the novel and the movie, much as I enjoyed his work and the writings of others, including Dr. Morse, the actual experience is so fantastic and leaves such a deep impression that I could never have made it up in my mind or with drugs, because the purpose behind it and the way my life changed as a result is entirely profound. Question. Are there any other questions that we could ask to help you communicate your experience? Answer. As I work in the Department of Anesthesia at a large medical university hospital, I have an opportunity to discuss afterlife or NDE with medical doctors. I remind them that when a patient codes on them, they secretly pray to God that He will put the life back in their hands, and as soon as that happens, they return to their cocky attitude that they fixed it themselves. It annoys me that they are supposed to be intelligent, but they cannot figure this out. Also, through discussion with a Hindu MD from Pakistan, it was suggested to me that even if a patient is pronounced clinically dead, they might not really be dead. The argument for this is that the definition of death is constantly changing. The finer our measuring methods become, the more absolute we become in defining death. Personally, I don't care so much about the finer details of what NDE is or isn't. I had the experience. It changed my life. End of story. However, it is possible that NDEers don't really die. They just have an incredibly profound experience that is the modern way for God to pass on His message. It has been suggested to me that we have a parallel existence. I cannot rule this out either. It's uncomfortable to think about, but I cannot deny that it might be. I am thoroughly enthralled with your research on memory. I think it is very excellent. Bravo! I wish you very well with your research. I am glad that you are so brave, and as a researcher myself, I think you must have a lot of fun with it, as well as criticism and cynicism. Please keep up the good work. Finally, I would like to say thank you very deeply for allowing me to express myself. This is the first time I have put any of this in writing, the first time I have shared more than a few minute details on the subject. It means a lot to me. Your existence makes me feel validated. I don't really need the validation, but it is good to have anyways. Thanks. End quotes and questions. And an awesome experience. Thank you, Marie. And thank you out there for listening. I hope you have a great day.